Hello everybody, welcome back to my Big Sister podcast. My name is Grace and this is my sister Josie.
And in today's episode we're going to be talking all about travelling and living in different countries and moving abroad. So we hope you enjoy. Let's get into it.
Okay, so this week's episode is going to be all about going travelling, going on holidays and also potentially living abroad because I feel like you definitely have the most experience in this kind of area, especially the living abroad part, because for those of you that don't know, Josie moved to Australia for how many years?
7 years.
7 years.
And we're from the UK, if you didn't know, by our voices.
Yeah, and you only just moved back kind of semi-recently, about 8 months ago now, probably. So I feel like you have so much like knowledge of what it's like to live in a different country and like all the like rules around like visas and everything. And then I feel like I haven't actually done too much like traveling, like backpack type, and neither have you really, I guess.
I didn't ever do a year abroad or anything like that.
But I feel like it's such a big kind of thing and like a trend of people who either before they go to university, I feel like in the UK so many people go like traveling, or after they finish university a lot of people will go traveling. So I feel like it's an interesting topic because I feel like there's so many pros and cons and like there's so many different options and like I feel like the most common thing for like British people is to go traveling to Australia. I feel like that is kind of the place everyone wants to go to and like the dream, because I think it's mainly just because the weather in England is so rubbish that...
Do you think it's the most common, or do you think it's just what people want to do the most? Because I feel like it's actually kind of hard to achieve because it's like quite expensive. It's quite far away.
I feel like people definitely go there to like for a traveling holiday, like they'll go for like 6 months or something. But yeah, I don't know that many people that have actually moved there like permanently. But I feel like Australia, and then also like traveling around Asia, like Thailand, I feel like is a classic one that people go to. And I've just finished uni, so a lot of my friends have also just finished uni and are like 22, 23, and so many of my friends recently have all gone traveling or are about to go traveling. Like I feel like I'm losing all my friends to like going traveling. And I feel like I'm just in the opposite headspace. Like I really am such a home person. I love being at home. I feel like also because I'm like in a long-term relationship, I feel like I like being at home with my boyfriend, and like I just don't feel the need inside of me to go traveling. But then I know so many people that I speak to are like, I have to go traveling, like I have to escape England. So I feel like it's weird how like people have such different like opinions on whether you should go traveling, or like some people say like everyone has to go, like otherwise you're like naive to the world and like you have to go and like experience things.
Well, it's definitely true that when you go traveling it does put things into perspective, and it changes when you come home. You see, it's like you're seeing your life in a completely different way. So,
and you might like find new things to be grateful for and stuff.
And you would never get that if you just stayed in one place and didn't go. But it's different for everyone. Like some people, they have a really strong desire to do that, and then some people just prefer to stay at home and maybe go on a few holidays a year.
I feel like that's what I prefer. Like I like going on holiday, and I love like going to different places. Like I have traveled to quite a lot of countries, but in like my personal life I'd rather go on like one holiday to one place for a few weeks and like stay in a hotel. I mean, I'm pretty like a bit of a princess where I don't think I'd want to stay in a hostel because I'm scared of like bugs. I wouldn't want to share
bugs in hostels.
In Australia, the bugs.
Not really. Like
the bugs.
They're quite clean.
I've seen lots of horror stories about hostels. So I feel like
depends whether it's like a nice hostel or a dodgy one. Like,
I think just for me, like I'd rather, like a lot of my friends that have like saved up and they're going traveling for like a whole year and like staying in different hostels and like traveling. I'd rather every year go on like a 2-week holiday and like have that money saved to like stay in a nicer kind of hotel, and like I don't know, I feel like that's what I prefer to do. But then some people really love like the actual traveling aspect of like just having a backpack and like going wherever they want and not knowing where they're gonna end up.
People.
I feel like I'm too much of a planner to do that. Like some of my friends have gone traveling and they don't know when they're coming back. Like they've got no flights booked, so they're just gonna see where they end up, and I'm like,
that for me sounds really fun, but for some reason I've just never actually done it.
I could not do that.
I think probably because for me I've always had like kind of back-to-back jobs. I haven't really had a period of time where I've like saved up loads of money and then quit my job and then not had a job. So it's like since uni I just haven't really had that period of time to do that. But it is something I've always felt like maybe I've missed out, because I do really love that idea of just going and like living somewhere or just moving around and not knowing what you're going to be doing next?
I just don't think like that appeals. I feel like my personality type, I love to have a plan. Like when I go on holiday for a week, like I'm planning every day. I'm booking the restaurant. Like I need to know what I'm doing every single day of that trip.
So it's kind of ironic that we're doing an episode about traveling.
When I'm not a good traveler. But I really think like, because you've moved to Australia, I feel like you have good knowledge. So let's talk about that, shall we? So I mean, as we said, we haven't been backpacking either of us, so we probably don't even have that much advice on that aspect, but moving abroad, you've definitely done that. So tell me about that. Why did you move to Australia? What was the process like in terms of like visas and stuff?
Well, I'd kind of always wanted, just like everyone pretty much from the UK, you know, we all have vitamin D deficiencies, we all need more sunlight, and
everyone wants to go to
just
Australia.
A bit lacking in sunlight. So then I met my now husband in London, and he's Australian, so we met and his visa was running out, so I was like, okay, well this is a good excuse, and I was only 23, so
that's crazy. You're like almost my age when you met him.
Or was it 24 when I think I was 23 when I met him and 24 when I moved, but it was quite spontaneous, really. I didn't think too hard about it. I didn't have a plan of how long I was going to be there for or how many years I wanted to live there. I think when you're that age, you don't really think too far ahead. Well, maybe you do.
I do, but yes, most people don't.
But I didn't, and I didn't really want to, because I kind of knew that if I thought too much about it, I'd probably freak myself out and think, oh, I don't actually want to do that, because then it feels more permanent. So I just kind of went with the flow, which before COVID was fine, and like I never felt like I was trapped there or anything, but yeah, it was mainly COVID that made it feel a bigger distance. Yeah. But before then it was, you know, it was quite easy. I would be coming home. I think I had the thing of I would come back every other Christmas. So like one Christmas in Australia, one Christmas in the UK, and I was doing that for a few years until COVID ruined everything. And like my mum came to visit, my granddad came to visit, people came, and you eventually came after a little while as well. So and my dad eventually, like, kind of, obviously it's a bit far for people to just easily pop over for a visit, but I did have quite a few different family members come to visit now and then, so that was nice. But yeah, it was not something that I really thought too much about, and then it kind of was another year and another year and another year.
Yeah, I
and
feel like
I
that
never
happens
really had
to
a plan.
people. Like one of my best friend's brother has been out there. He went out for 6 months and he's been there for like 2 years, and he just keeps but he's like traveling, like backpacking, and he keeps going around Australia. Like I feel like people get like, if you're the sort of person that loves that lifestyle, it's like a no-brainer, like why you wouldn't stay, because of like the sun, and I feel like there's like the sort of lifestyle sun. You get in Australia is very different.
Beautiful beaches. It is kind of like what you imagine. But the things that people don't always talk about is missing your family, missing your friends, feel like having to deal with long distance friendships, which is quite difficult to maintain.
And like the time difference.
Yeah, the time difference, you kind of get used to it eventually, but you're basically living your life on a different plane of existence to the people in the other side of the world, because they're asleep and you're awake, and it's just, you can't really connect with people overseas that easily. So there's a lot of pros and cons for it.
What are like the main differences that you didn't expect when you moved there? Like, are there things you had a picture of your mind of like what Australia would be like, and what were the things that were so different?
Well, we didn't actually live by the beach at any point. We lived kind of like a half an hour bus ride away, so it wasn't that bad, but it wasn't like we were going to the beach every single day. And to be honest, I don't mind the sea, and I definitely got less scared of it from living there, but I'm not a surfer, and I don't really like getting sand all on me. It's kind of annoying. And I also, from living there, I became very paranoid about protecting my skin and not getting burned, because you can really damage your skin, because there's like a hole in the ozone layer over Australia.
Yeah, I was so surprised when I came to visit for the first time, the amount of like adverts on billboards and like different like clinics they have there that are just for like skin.
Is a really big thing. Like,
and
so many people I know who live in Australia have had melanomas, and it's almost just, it's not even, I mean obviously it's stressful, but it's more of just a common everyday thing.
Yeah, like a thing that's kind
of expected. You just go get it removed. And
which is crazy because I feel like here, I mean obviously the skin cancer rate would be so much lower than in Australia.
So yeah, that was something that, just that lifestyle of being on the beach every day, it wasn't really something that we did, but that was more out of choice. Like, I guess we could have lived in Bondi, but
it depends where you live.
But in Sydney, which is where we live, all the places that are near the beach are so expensive. They're so elitist, they're so rich. It's actually insane how much the houses cost around there, or even just renting is like so expensive. So
it's like trying to live in like Chelsea or like Kensington
and I'm sure in different states, like probably in Queensland it's not quite the same as that, but in Sydney it's shocking how expensive it is, and it's getting worse and worse.
So what did you find about like in terms of prices of stuff, because you said before like Australia is expensive?
Well, so when I first moved there, which was in 2017, the supermarkets in the UK were really cheap at that time. And so when I moved there, the supermarket prices really shocked me.
What shocked me when I went to visit was that it's basically a similar price to eat out than it is to like buy the ingredients and cook it yourself at home.
That's one thing that it's really a different mindset of. Eating out is actually quite cheap.
Or like getting takeaway, it's like almost the same cost as making it yourself.
I'm not sure why. I think it might be something to do with, in the UK, the energy costs are so high, whereas over there and then maybe they're not having to heat the restaurant as much, and you just don't have to pay as much for energy, I think.
And like maybe there's not business rates in Australia, I don't know, because in the UK like businesses that operate like as a restaurant get taxed like way more than the supermarkets
for energy.
No, business rates, like they get taxed for just existing as a shop. So there's like lots more costs.
Well, I don't know too much about that side of things, but basically it's cheaper to eat out there. So we would eat out a lot, and that I just love that. That's so fun.
And
that's
I remember
my favorite thing to do.
So when I came to visit Josie, you would get like Deliveroo for lunch in the week, and I would be like, oh my god, if I did this at home, like I would run out of money so fast. But it was affordable there, like it was for a Deliveroo lunch. I feel like you could get it delivered for like £7, like $15.
I would get like a lunch delivered usually for about $15 to $20, which is about £7 to £10, which I don't think is that bad. I mean, I'm not doing that every day,
but
like, it was a lot cheaper.
You have it as an option, and then if you bought stuff in the supermarket, like you can't get a meal deal in Australia for lunch, like it's very different deals. So I feel like
there's no prep.
It's almost like the same price than it would be to go get ingredients.
But then since moving back now, the prices in the supermarkets here are pretty much just the same as Australia these days.
Cost of living
so
crisis.
You won't be as shocked if you're coming from the UK to Australia these days. You won't be as shocked at the prices. It would feel kind of similar in the supermarkets.
So I went to visit Josie twice while you were living there, and the first time I went, everyone was like, oh my god, Grace, I can't believe you're going there because of like the spiders and the bugs and the snakes, because I feel like when I used to picture Australia, I would think of like I'm a Celebrity, the TV show where like they're in like the jungle and there's all these bugs and like weird insects and stuff. But then when I went, I realised that the whole time I was there, both times, I did not see like a spider or a snake. But what I did see, which is the most terrifying animal that exists in Australia, is the bin chickens and the bush turkeys. No one warned me about
scary.
this.
They are funny.
They're terrifying.
Grace has a weird fear of birds. I'm not sure
I'm scared
why.
of birds, okay? In England, if I see a swan at like a children's play park, I will run away, and then they start chasing you. Like, I'm really scared of swans. I don't love pigeons.
Maybe if you just didn't run away, they wouldn't chase you.
But swans, swans can like kill humans. They're really scary.
Children.
Yeah, and adults. And when I went to Australia, they have these things called what are they called? So there's bin chickens.
Bin chickens, which are actually called ibises.
Bin chickens are the most scary animal I've ever seen in real life. They have these big beaks.
They are quite weird.
And they're in like the city. Like I thought scary animals in Australia would just be in the countryside areas, but no, you're in the middle of Sydney.
They're bin chickens. They love the bins.
Yeah,
so they're in the city everywhere.
I was at by the Sydney Opera House, in that bit of grass near the gallery, and you're just sat there, and then these birds come up to you. They've got these massive beaks. They look honestly so terrifying, and they hide in the bins and around the bins.
They hide in the bins. But the reason that they thrive in the city is because their beaks are so long that they can easily peck into the bin.
And they want your rubbish because obviously they're hungry. It's sort of like pigeons in London, but this is way bigger than a pigeon. This is very big. It's this big, and it has this big beak. Honestly, Google it. Bin chickens. They're really scary. And you'd go to put your rubbish in a bin in the city, and then the bin chickens come, and it's so scary. And one time I got off the little train and was walking back to Josie's apartment, and one followed me home. It was following me down the streets, and I was fast walking,
sense your fear.
And I kept looking. It's kind of like in Wallace and Gromit, the penguin chicken. It felt like that, they're always watching you.
Penguin chicken.
Honestly, they're really scary. I was so scared. And then so I just thought the bin chickens were bad enough. If you go to a bit more of a grassy area, say for example when you go to what's that place? Is it Manly Beach when you do that walk to the other beaches?
Shelley Beach.
Yeah. We were sat sunbathing at the beach on a grassy area with some trees around us. I fell asleep, I was falling half asleep with the sun, trying to relax, like you would do, if you're at a beach. And then I hear these little feet next to me, and I open my eyes and I turn, and it's the most terrifying creature. It looks like a dinosaur. It looks like it's from the dinosaur ages.
They're so silly.
And it's called a bush turkey.
Oh, now you're talking about the bush turkeys.
And they're these fluffy,
it's just
big,
a little
no,
chicken.
But I'm so scared, and I look, and then I just could not relax. So whenever.
And by the way, our parents have chickens, so you grew up with
I'm scared
chickens.
of those too. I'm scared of birds. Okay,
No sense.
It's really scary. And then the second time I went to Australia, I went with my dad. So whenever we'd be sunbathing on the beach, one of us would be on bush turkey watch. So we couldn't both fall asleep at the beach. I would make one of us be awake, ready to
But
scare
what did
them
you
off.
think was going to happen?
They were going to peck me to death.
They never ever peck anyone. I've never seen them come towards.
They come really close,
but they don't actually.
But they come really close. They would steal people's food off their picnic
flick
blankets.
Your hand,
no, honestly,
go away.
That's one of them that I could never live in Australia because of those two birds. That's the most terrifying thing about Australia. It's not the spiders or the snakes. It's the bush turkeys and the bin chickens.
Just so you know, most people aren't this scared of birds. So if you are now
you're
scared
of birds,
Australia
don't
because
go.
of this, I would not say this is a problem.
Don't you think they're really scary?
I have zero fear of them.
I do.
They are not scary. I just find them funny and kind of gross.
I think my fear of birds comes from when my parents had chickens growing up, and I used to have these nightmares about chickens pecking me to death in the night. So I think if you know that I have that fear, imagine I'm asleep on a beach in Australia, relaxing. There's this bird in my face. It's really scary.
They are kind of stinky, and I can always smell when one's nearby.
I'm gonna show you a picture for anyone watching this podcast
we can
as a visual.
just put it on the screen.
No, I have to see this face to face. Bush turkey.
Also, bush turkeys are quite
small. So this is the one that comes up to you on the beach.
Oh, that kind. Yeah.
Scary, terrifying. And then I'll show you the bin chickens. The bin chickens are the worst thing. Let me show you a picture of these bin chickens.
But the thing is, what you should actually be scared of if you're scared of any birds is the magpies, because they actually attack you and can peck your eyes out. Do you know about this?
Can you not tell me? I don't want to know. This is a bin chicken. They come and they follow you home in Australia. That's why you shouldn't go to Australia if you're scared of birds. How terrifying is that? Is that not scary to you?
No, I just find them funny and a bit gross.
Ooh, they're just creepy. I feel like it's going to come and get me in the night.
Anyway, well, aside from that,
I could not go on I'm a Celeb if they were there. I don't even mind. I'm a bit scared of insects, but I could I wouldn't run away if I saw a spider. I would run away if I saw one of those.
I'm more scared of spiders, and I've only ever seen, in my actual apartment building, I've only ever seen one huntsman, which is a very big spider, but they're harmless, so that was okay. And then one other time, where it was when we were shipping Winnie, my dog, when we were moving back to the UK, and we got
That's
crate.
a story to tell.
Yeah.
Josie shipped her dog from Australia to the UK.
Yeah, my dog is Australian and now lives in the UK. But anyway, we had to get a crate for the shipping, and we had the crate in our house for like a few months to prepare Winnie to be shipped over.
To get used to it, yeah.
And in the crate, we looked and there was this red spider. Well, it was like black with a red spot on its back. And we were like, that looks dodgy. And we looked it up, and it was one of the most deadly spiders. And we had to somehow get it out of the crate, and
because the crate has holes
far
in, right?
away from our house.
Yeah.
And imagine if we'd put Winnie in that crate and hadn't seen the spider, she could have died.
Yeah,
so that was scary.
It's scary that like you just lived in Sydney, like you didn't even live anywhere like really near the like bush or anything, and that sort of spider is still like could be coming in your house.
But I think it was because the crate was probably stored somewhere like in the countryside, so
still that's scary. But I mean, I feel like I just wouldn't be as scared as of spiders, because it's just the bin chickens and the bush turkeys.
But the spider you could actually kill you.
But you can just put a cup over it and like kill it.
But it could crawl on you and your face in the night.
I would still be more scared of a bush turkey.
The other thing that was really annoying, and something I feel like people don't talk about as much, is the cockroaches. Is in Sydney, in the city, they're a real problem in people's houses. You can have the cleanest house ever, but you could still get cockroaches if you live in an apartment, especially because like you can't really control what your neighbours are doing in their house, and you have to get pest control out, and that for me was the grossest thing that I hadn't experienced in the UK, because I think in the UK if you get a cockroach it's probably because your house is quite dirty, like there's not like a problem with infestation as much, and there was quite a lot of cockroaches. I feel like it was gross.
In the UK the only insects you could get in your house is like ants.
I feel like if you live in London you can get mice and rats.
Oh I'm getting all freaked out talking about all these pests and birds.
And what else? The one other thing that was crazy was possums. So we lived in an apartment where we lived like quite high up on the top floor, and right above our bedroom was the roof of our building. And we had possums. Really scaring me. We had possums that came into our roof and were making the loudest noise right above our heads. And then we had some people come and they because they're quite big animals. They're kind of like,
is it like a skunk?
No, is it like a mole? It's actually very cute. It's quite big. You can look up a picture of it. I'm
feeling creeped out. Like I want to put my legs up because I feel like a possum's gonna crawl from under this sofa and get me right now.
Like they're actually cute. But
I'm getting freaked out.
So we had to get these possum people to come and catch them, and because they're kind of protected animals, they catch them and then release them quite far away.
That's a possum.
Well, that's a scary picture, but they're more like that.
Oh, well, that's cute.
Yeah, like let me see.
I don't like that.
Let me find one that looks like what they actually looked like.
This episode is convincing me I should never move to Australia because
they kind of looked like that.
It looks like a chinchilla.
Yeah, it was like, so we had these like things in our roof, and they took them away, and then a few months later they came back, and it would keep me awake, and it was so, and my husband, because he's Australian, he's grew up with
he's used to all the noises,
this kind of thing, and so he just slept through it, and I would wake up, hear this really loud noise, and it was an absolute nightmare. So that was something that I'd never experienced before living in Australia.
God, I'm getting really freaked out now, to be honest with you. So after living in Australia for how long? 7 years?
Yeah.
What would you say are like the main pros and cons of like living in Australia?
That's difficult, and it also depends where you live and
where you comparing it to.
Yeah, and where you're from, because you might not be from the UK if you're listening to this. You might already be from a hot country, so I don't know. Yeah. But for me personally, the pros and cons, obviously, the weather is amazing.
Yeah, that is like the main.
The food is amazing. There's so much good Asian food out there. Just such good Japanese, Chinese, Korean, Thai. Everything is just amazing. Malaysian. It's just so good. Oh, I just miss it. Anyway, and then obviously the beaches. They are so beautiful, and there's so many of them. So if you love the beach, you will love it there. And then obviously the cons is just being far away from your family, being far away from your friends, and being in a different time zone to everyone. And also Australia is very far away from the rest of the world, so it's very difficult to go to a different country from there. Like you have to really you know, go on a long flight if you want to go to a different country.
You can't just like go to Spain in 2 hours.
Yeah,
like,
even to go from Sydney to Perth is about a 5-hour flight, and that's just to go across the country. So you can't even, it takes you minimum 5 hours to even leave the country if you're on the East Coast. So it's quite long. That's probably the other con.
Yeah, I feel like if you could somehow just make Australia nearer to the UK, then a lot more people would move there and would live there.
Yeah.
But it's just the distance, I think, is so long.
And one thing that could be a pro or a con, depending on your viewpoint, is if you're from an English speaking country, then obviously Australia, you don't have to learn another language. The culture is very similar to the UK, but for me, I don't know if that's a pro or a con, because I think the idea of moving to another country is kind of learning those other cultural things, picking up the language and those sorts of things, which you don't really get if you're a Brit moving to Australia. You're gonna feel like you're kind of just in the UK, but it's sunnier. So that could be a pro or a con depending on what you're after.
Yeah, I feel like the flight is just what puts me off. Like I really loved it when I went, and I loved it for a holiday. I don't think I'd want to live there, mainly because of all those creatures we just mentioned. But I would go there so much more often on holiday if it wasn't for the flight.
Yeah.
I think with my back as well, because I get like really, really bad pain if I have to sit down for more than like 2 hours, 3 hours. So even normally when I go to Greece for like a 4 or 5 hour flight, it's really like hurts a lot. So to then do like a 22 or 23 hour flight to Australia is just like awful. Like
it is tough.
It's so like just physically draining, like mentally draining. Like I just felt, last time I went to Sydney, I just felt like I was like, you know, you just feel like almost you're in prison, like you're just stuck in this seat and you can't move. And
I felt really bad because Grace was sleeping on a blow up bed in our living room.
Yeah.
And for some reason we'd lost the thing.
Josie lost the cap.
We'd lost the cap that kept the air in the bed.
So when I went to Sydney last, I was sleeping on the floor basically.
So you were sleeping on the floor and you were so tired and so ill and just...
Yeah, I was really jet lagged and
I was like, no, it's fine, it's working, don't worry about it, look, it's blowing up.
And I was like, guys, I'm sleeping on the floor. They were like, no, you're fine. And then we found the cap eventually and realised that it was not blown up.
And then you felt fine after that.
Yeah. When I last went to Sydney, I like was really ill when I arrived.
Yeah, you were like feeling really sick.
I threw up. Yeah. I don't know if I ate something funny on the plane or what, whether it was just jet lag, but I just felt so awful. And yeah, when you go to a country that far away, you have to leave like a few days to recover from the jet lag as well, because it's so confusing, like the time difference and like like you're hungry at the wrong time and just like it's really weird if you've not experienced that before. It's like such a strange thing to get used to. Okay, well that's you living in Australia. Now I'm gonna go through some questions from some of you guys. We asked just for general questions about traveling and holidays and stuff, so let's have a look what people have asked. Okay, someone said, is traveling with friends a bad idea? I'm afraid we're going to grow apart or have different goals for travel.
I think it depends where you're going, for how long. If you're going just for a weekend mini break, you'll probably be fine. But if you want to go properly traveling
with someone, I think that's so hard. I mean, for me, even trying to organise like a girls' week holiday can be so hard and can cause so many arguments. I can't imagine trying to like organise with a friend like a year-long travelling stint. Like that just... I mean, personally, I don't think I'd be able to, because I'm such a planner. If my friend didn't want to do the stuff I planned, I would like not be able to cope with that.
I think it can be tricky as well when you have different budgets. That's a real big thing.
And that can be a bit awkward, like if you're going traveling and say one of you like is desperate to go to this place and then it's very expensive, and then it's like, oh, we've come all this way, I want to really go, but then your friend doesn't. That can cause like arguments and it can be like awkward.
Like I've been traveling before with my friend, one of my best friends, and it was just so relaxing, so good. We had the same goals, roughly the same budget, and it just went perfectly. So it can go really well if you're really good friends and like have a similar mindset about traveling and like sort of the same things, but it's quite hard to find that. And
also just like you're basically living with someone, and if you're going traveling for like a long period, like you're basically like living together for a year, like that is a big commitment to be spending that amount of time with one person. But I think what some people do, and I know it's happened to friends where like they'll go out traveling to Thailand or somewhere with someone, and then they'll actually kind of drop off and like maybe find a different group, because if you're going on that sort of like backpacking holiday, I feel like there's lots of groups, like you'll find other people traveling, especially if you're staying in hostels and stuff. So then you might even find friends and then both go your separate ways. Like if you have been arguing, I feel like it's okay to like kind of separate, but obviously you've got to think of your safety as well, because if it's people you've just met, like you want to be careful like who you're going off with. But yeah, I feel like maybe kind of talk to your friends before and say, okay, if anything happens, like, are we gonna split up, or are we definitely like, you need to kind of have a plan of like,
I think it's
be realistic about like, if there's arguments, what are we gonna do and stuff like that.
Like again, obviously that is it will make a big difference if you're just going on a short trip or a long trip. Like if you're just going for a couple of weeks, then obviously
then it's
you'll be fine.
But if it's like a year-long thing, I think one thing I've noticed, a lot of my friends, obviously who you go traveling with just depends which of your friends are free and wants to go. So you might end up going with people that like are not even your best friends. They might just be people like friends of friends, and you might go with one friend and all their friends. So it might be kind of, I don't know, it might be good to go with some people you don't know, because then you can kind of like get to know them on the trip. But obviously that's risky, because you might get to know them and not get on.
There's so many variables, but I think the main thing is to just, obviously with anything, to communicate well and to just be open and honest about how you're feeling. If something feels like, ooh, it's a bit too expensive, just be completely honest about that, and try and just be open-minded. And you know, I've been on holidays before where people have just been like, oh no, I don't feel like going there, blah blah blah, and it's so draining to have people who are just being a bit of a downer about things. I think the key is to just have an open mind and to just be enthusiastic and open to trying different things, even if it's something maybe you wouldn't necessarily have picked yourself. Sometimes just going with what other people want can be quite good.
I think what I would probably say, if you're like going to be traveling for like 6 months or a year, maybe try and go on like a week holiday or like a weekend trip with the people first to kind of test it out, or even just have like a sleepover with them if you've never done that. Like just because some people's like ways of living, and like some people love alone time, and like some of my friends, like I feel like me, if I'm having a sleepover, like I need to go to bed and be quiet and like have my own space and like do my skincare on my own, whereas some people love being with other people so much that like they need to be chatting the whole evening, and like they want to do everything together. So like working out the kind of group dynamics and like if that's gonna work on like a long-term trip.
And even things like how much you like drinking.
That's a big thing, because I feel like a lot of
if there's people that do other substances and you don't, or vice versa, like those things can really cause
and also like
arguments.
If you're single or if you're in a relationship, like you might be going traveling, and if there's a single friend who wants to meet loads of guys and like bring them back to your hotel room, that could be like awkward if you are in a relationship and you don't want to be like have guys, you know, partying around. So I think maybe discussing that beforehand, or you'll probably just know from who the people are. Like I don't love to drink that much anymore, so I would not want to go on like a holiday where we're planning to do a lot of like clubbing and like partying every day. But then some people love that, and I feel like there's lots of kind of party destinations in like Asia that people specifically go to like party the whole time.
Full moon parties and things.
So it really just depends on like your vibe, and like I think just making sure you kind of know, like ask your friends like, okay, so are we going to be drinking lots? What's the budget? Are we going to be eating out? Are we going to be making food at the hostels? Like there's so many things to figure out before you agree and book that trip. But I think just try and just prepare for every eventuality, have an escape plan if something goes wrong. Like if you all have a massive argument, you've got to think like, are we gonna go our separate ways, or like what are we gonna do, and like or
just try and pick with people you just know that you'll be fine.
But you never know, like some people I feel like you don't really know people unless you've gone on like a holiday with them. It's like,
or if you've lived with them, like maybe if you're already housemates with someone, that's probably, you'd be more likely to know what
if it's like someone that you've lived with at uni, you'll probably know what to expect more. But I just feel like be very careful, think lots before you go, and like try and find people that are sort of your vibe of person. Someone said, I'm going away with my friends for the first time ever to Greece. what should I bring?
Oh, this is fun. I love packing.
Yeah.
Like, I love planning my outfits for packing. I don't love the actual act of packing, and definitely I don't enjoy unpacking. But I love planning my outfit.
I have my packing cubes.
Yeah.
If I'm going on like a short break, I'll do like a packing cube per day of my outfits like together.
There's lots of things that you don't necessarily think of, especially if you haven't been traveling that much. There's so many little things that you need to remember that are hard to remember.
First one, get a plug that works for that country.
Yeah.
I went on Amazon.
I do need more than one.
Yeah, I have on Amazon, you can get these ones where like it's like all different countries and you like do a little switch and it will change between them. I have one of those, and then I just bring a British extension lead to plug into that. And then you have like 5 plugs all the time.
That's a good idea.
I would recommend one of those on Amazon.
Just things like a water bottle, so that when you're on the plane, you can fill up your water.
Yeah.
I always do that. Earplugs for the fly, or noise cancelling headphones, just to block out noises whenever you need to.
If you're going to like a beach holiday or like a holiday you're going to be by the pool, I would say bring a book.
Kindle.
I'm not like a reader in my day-to-day life, but when it comes to holidays, I always bring books, because I feel like when it's really sunny and your phone like is overheating and you've got all sun cream, like it's just easier to read a book by the pool than it is to scroll on your phone by the pool.
That's why I love having a Kindle, because you can have as many books as you want.
Yeah.
And you don't have to fit your heavy actual books in your case.
Or sometimes when I go to Greece, I always have podcasts like downloaded so I can listen to them in my AirPods, because you can not always guarantee like Wi-Fi, especially if you're staying at a hotel. Like there might be Wi-Fi in the room, but there might not be signal like by the pool or by the beach.
Even for the flight as well. That's
download.
handy.
Yeah, that's another thing. Download, if you have like Netflix, you can download stuff offline, or like I have YouTube Premium, so I download like YouTube videos to watch, because I always find like when at home when I'm like getting ready and doing my makeup, I'm watching something, whereas when you're on holiday you're like, oh, it's silent. So it's nice to like, I always bring my iPad now on holidays in my hand luggage, so I have like a little mini TV to bring with me to like get ready and I can watch like a show. Or like even when I went to Greece last year, there was one evening where it was bad weather and it was raining, so we didn't go out for dinner, we just stayed in, and there was no TV in the hotel room, and I was like, guys, I have my iPad, we can watch. And I had episodes of a TV show, so it's always good as a backup to like have something for emergencies.
That's good. The other thing I would always say, for this is less for if you're going to Greece, more if you're going for a long haul flight, like when I go to Australia, is get a really good neck pillow. I have this one that attaches to the back of my seat, so that, and it ties up around my neck, so that when I fall asleep, the worst thing I hate is when you fall asleep and your head drops down and it wakes you up. But because this pillow is attached to the back, the headrest.
How does it attach?
It's just like a little strap, like, you know, those little flappy bits on the side of the seat that kind of flap out.
No.
You like attach it to that, and so you're like, it sounds weirdly, you're like strapped into the seat, but it's so relaxing because you can just fall asleep. And then I also have eye mask that has a cutout for the eyes, so that you can blink, because I hate eye masks where you can't blink. It makes me feel really trapped, like I can't open my eyes, because when you're asleep in the dark you can open your eyes but it's still dark, so that's why I like those eye masks. But the other thing I was going to say, for if you're packing for a holiday, especially if you want to, you know, take some cute photos while you're there, is maybe get an app like Wearing or something, which is this app that I use where you can plan your outfits. It's like a digital wardrobe, kind of like Clueless. I think we spoke about it on the personal style episode. But that's so fun for planning holiday outfits.
Or even I have like a folder on my phone of like outfit ideas, just like pictures of me from previous holidays or previous like nights out, so I can like go on that and be like, okay, that I know that works as an outfit together, like I'll pack all of those items.
And just trying things on before you go, and but that's I don't know if there's anything else I would suggest.
I'm trying to
think. Usually buy sun cream when I get there, just so that I have less to carry.
I don't do that. It's always so expensive when you buy it abroad.
No.
I always get my sun cream before I go. Bring it with me. So, I mean, up to you guys. I feel like, especially if you're going to like a tourist destination, the sun cream's always so expensive because they know that people need it. So,
depends where you're going.
But like, if you're going to like a holiday destination in Greece, it will probably be expensive there. So, I would say buy it beforehand.
I think it just depends where you're going.
Yeah. One thing to also remember, if you are sensitive to mosquito bites and you're going to Greece, especially, bring bug spray, bug cream, because I am allergic to mosquito bites. So wherever I go, if I get bitten, if I scratch it and don't put cream on it, my mosquito bites it's like a whole thing, and like I can't relax, like, and it kind of ruins the whole holiday. So for me, I'm always bringing like cream, I'm bringing bug spray, like to make sure the bugs don't get me in the night. I'm bringing, like, you can get those like plug-in things for your hotel room that make like the high-pitched noise so the bugs don't come. I just bring so much anti-bug stuff whenever I go to Greece, because I know if I get bitten it will just like ruin the holiday. So I always bring that, and that stuff again is always more expensive there, so it's better to like take it with you. Also bring like painkillers and medication, because last time I went to Greece I got bitten, and then we were staying in like an all-inclusive hotel, but so it was this big resort, but there was no town for ages. Like it was in the middle of nowhere, and I needed paracetamol and they didn't have it in the hotel shop, so we had to walk.
That's pretty bad. They should have it.
The nearest pharmacy was like a 40-minute walk, and it was only open in the mornings, so we had to walk in the morning, like in this 30-degree weather, along this main road for 40 minutes, and there was no taxis. We had to walk 40 minutes there.
Why
and 40 minutes back,
because
it was just like the middle of nowhere, like this resort.
Couldn't the hotel have got you a taxi?
Maybe, I don't know, but we just
it
walked.
Sounds like you could have got a taxi.
Yeah, but that was the thing, we didn't have any cash, and the taxis on the island only took cash, and the nearest cash point was in the town 40 minutes away, so we couldn't get cash. Like, we'd have to walk to get the cash to pay the taxi, so we had to walk 40 minutes in the sun.
Well, that's a good tip. Make sure you always have cash.
Yeah, cash as well if you are intending on getting like taxis. And yeah, we had to go and buy paracetamol, and it was like €10 for one thing of paracetamol.
Oh my God.
And then we had to walk all the way back, and it was like, if I just brought some from home, at home paracetamol was like 30p.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, so I always pack like enough painkillers so that if anything happens, I don't need to like go to the pharmacy, because you have to pay, and like, it might not be anywhere near where you're staying.
And also just a hat and sunglasses. I mean, it sounds obvious, but
yeah, sun protection.
You can sometimes just forget that, because it is so hot.
Yeah. Someone said, where has been your favourite holiday destination?
Ooh, that's a good question.
I feel like, I don't know, I've been to quite a few countries, but I always end up going back to Greece. I feel like that's my favourite place still. But then also there's so many countries I haven't travelled to yet, which I would like to. I also really loved when I went to New York. That was amazing. But there was some downsides to New York, where like, first thing was the mosquitoes in New York were so bad. And I went in summer to New York, so it was really hot, and I wasn't like prepared. I didn't pack like all my mosquito stuff, and I didn't pack painkillers, so I had to go and buy it when I was there. But I just think Greece, is always going to be my favourite. But then I love the food in Italy, but I haven't been to Italy as much. I would like to go more, but it tends to be more expensive than Greece, so I always end up going to Greece because it's a bit cheaper than Italy.
I think mine was the Philippines, where me and my husband went for our honeymoon. Some places weren't that great, to be honest, but some places were the best places I've ever been. So we went to this place called Darakaton Island, and it was an eco resort where everything was all eco, like built on the island, all these interesting huts, and some of the best food I've ever had. And it was just so nice. And we went snorkeling and did yoga, and it was just amazing. And El Nido as well, with the boat trips that you can do out to all the different islands, is some of the most beautiful beaches I've ever seen. And that's saying something, considering I lived in Sydney.
What do you think the best food has been where you've travelled? Because I feel like when I go travelling, I am researching places based on like the best restaurants.
Pizza
and the
in
best
Naples.
Food.
So good.
I feel like pizza in New York when I went was also really good. That was really good.
Well, in Naples it's like so
proper
cheap,
traditional,
as well. You can get a whole pizza for €3 or €5, and it's, that is where pizza came from, so they know what they're doing.
Yeah. I feel like, I don't know if I mentioned this on the podcast yet, but I am vegan, so I don't eat like meat or dairy. So whenever I go on holiday, that's one thing I'm researching. Like, is this country's food good for vegans? Because
you find Greece isn't that good, really.
Yeah, I mean, I love going to Greece, but a lot of the traditional dishes there aren't vegan. There are some, but like if I'm staying there for like 2 or 3 weeks, it does start to get a bit repetitive.
Get bored,
so I tend to always, like, whenever I'm looking to go somewhere new on holiday, I'll make sure they have good vegan food. Like, when I went to New York, that was so good. I think that was one of the best places for vegan, aside from, like, London. When I went to Sydney, I didn't find they had that good vegan stuff because a lot of the food was, like, traditional Asian food, which I feel like uses a lot of, like, different meats and stuff in their cooking. You can get quite a lot of
veggie stuff, though, like...
But I feel like a lot of the stuff, it, like, even if it's a vegetable dish, it would have, like, fish sauce or, like, the ingredients made of it wasn't, like, vegan.
Well, yeah, maybe it's more veggie is okay, but vegan
is harder.
There are some really good vegan places in Sydney.
If you go to, like, a 100% vegan place, and that's good. But I feel like
Soul Burger, shout out.
Yeah, I feel like still London is the best place I've been to where, like, any restaurant you walk into will probably have a vegan option, whereas, like, in Sydney, if you just went to a random coffee shop, they probably wouldn't have a vegan, like, food to eat, whereas I feel like in London now it's, like, almost everywhere has something I can eat. And in New York it was like that as well, like, pretty good for vegans. But yeah, Greece, not always that good, but there are a few dishes you can, like, always rely on. But Italy I feel like is really good for vegan because a lot of their, like, traditional dishes are just vegan anyway. But yeah, I feel like I'm always traveling based on food as well.
Yeah.
Is there anywhere you want to go that you haven't been yet?
Oh, that's a good question. I really want to go to Portugal and Iceland. So a few different places in Europe that I want to go to.
Why do you want to go to Portugal?
I don't know. I just really want to go. It just sounds cool. It just sounds fun. I want to go to Lisbon. And Iceland, I just want to go to experience all the crazy geysers and like when water explodes.
Oh, I thought you meant like a geyser, like a man. I thought the Iceland men are, like, crazy. I was like, oh, all the geysers in Iceland.
The water, the hot springs and things like that.
Okay, that makes sense.
And I don't know. That's all that's on my list for now. I'd like to go back to Morocco.
That's fun. Yeah, I've never been to anywhere in Africa.
To Morocco.
I would like to go somewhere in Africa at least because I feel like that's a whole continent that I've never been to.
Yeah, my friend lives in Tanzania, so I loved visiting there. I'd love to go back and explore more. Maybe do a safari. That would be so fun.
I do like France, the times I've been, but France is not, I haven't found it that good for vegan food, so that's one thing that, like, puts me off, because France is, like, the easiest place to go to if you live in the UK. Like, if you live in the south of England, it's the closest place to travel to, but I do find, even in Paris, the vegan options are not very good, so that kind of puts me off. I just wish there was more vegan options in France.
Although they have very good falafel wraps.
In Paris, I don't like falafel, though.
I
don't like falafel.
I don't like the ones you get in a shop in a supermarket, but
like in the
ones in Paris are good.
Someone asked, what's the first holiday you ever went on?
Like, by myself?
I guess whatever you want to answer.
Yeah, I think, well, I always remember my first holiday away with my friends was to Zante, or Zakynthos.
That's a classic, like, party destination.
Which
it's in Greece, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a Greek island, but in hindsight, it was kind of gross. It's basically, the place we went was where there's this party strip and it's just endless bars and you could just get really cheap drinks. They probably have hardly any alcohol in them, but they just give you these massive big what are they called, goldfish fish bowls of drinks. And we were only 17 when we went there, but the legal drinking age in Greece is 16, so we could drink, and we were just silly and very young, and it was kind of gross, and there was a lot of horrible behaviour going on.
But the actual country isn't gross, it's just...
Oh yeah, don't get me wrong, like, I'm not saying that this is Zante's fault. This is the British people who go to these places' fault, who are just so young, so dumb. And I don't know if you've ever seen that show, Sun, Sea and Suspicious Parents. It was basically like that.
Well, it's like the In-Betweeners movie.
Yeah. Go watch the In-Betweeners movie when they go to Greece. And did they go to Greece in that?
They go somewhere
in Greece. Yeah, that is basically what my holiday was like. It was kind of gross. It was still fun. It was a good experience. But yeah, definitely don't know if I'd repeat it.
I kind of missed out on like the whole lads holiday thing because I was meant to go on one in 2020, but then it was locked down, and then we just never like got around to like rearranging it, so I never went on like a girls holiday.
It's definitely a formative experience. I feel like everyone should have at least one.
I don't know, they're quite unsafe, I feel like when I hear stories about what happens in those places, and like a lot of people get spiked at those bars as well.
Like, it is definitely,
be really careful if you,
I think because I was in a group with 3 other girls and we were all quite close, it was kind of okay because we were like, we would never leave anyone or walk off or anything. But yeah, definitely some funny things happened. Like we went on a boat trip with this random group of boys that we met, and we put the anchor down on the boat, and we were just in the middle of the sea. We put the anchor down and the anchor got stuck under some rocks, and we didn't have any, we would run out of water, and we thought we were going to get stuck there. And one of these boys had to dive down and unhook the anchor, otherwise we would have just been trapped, and there was no one there to like come and rescue us.
God, that sounds dangerous.
So yeah, kind of silly things like that.
Yeah, I feel like that does not appeal to me now. My first holiday ever, when my first time going abroad ever was, I think it was to France. I think our parents took us to France when I was like a baby. But the first holiday that I went on like without my parents was, I think, just to Greece with my boyfriend. Because yeah, I was meant to go on a girls' holiday in 2020, but then it was cancelled. So
maybe you should make that your mission to try and go on one.
Yeah, but I feel like it's so hard to arrange nowadays, like with people's work and everything.
Yeah,
like,
it becomes harder.
It's hard to even meet friends for dinner, let alone like having a whole week free all at the same time.
Yeah. Do you feel like since COVID, it's gotten worse? Like people find making plans harder?
Yeah.
I wonder why that is.
I saw a TikTok saying how like people since COVID just feel like they can just cancel plans like the day of, and like they're like just say like it's up to them, like it's, they're not entitled, like you're not entitled to see them, like it's up to, like it,
which I think is a mindset shift.
I think it's fair if like obviously a week before you're like, no, I'm not feeling good this week, like I don't want to meet. But if people cancel like an hour before and it's like you've put a lot of effort, or you've even travelled, and then you're already like, it's happened to me before where like I'm meeting a friend in London, I've paid for my train, I'm in London, and then like half an hour before they're like, sorry, I woke up late, I can't get, and I'm like,
I think there's a bit of enabling of flaky behaviour on the internet sometimes.
But I feel like now I've just learnt which friends I can like depend on, and which friends are probably going to cancel, so then I've kind of just stopped making plans with those friends.
Don't be a flaky friend.
But I feel like it's fair enough to cancel stuff if like genuinely maybe you've woken up sick, or like or if something's happened. You know,
mental health things, obviously I can understand that, but
if it's like every single time
my mission is to not be a flaky friend.
Because otherwise you just end up never seeing people. I think that's all the questions we have time for. But I feel like this has been quite a random episode. I mean, I don't really know why we picked this as a topic.
A lot of talking about bin chickens.
Oh yeah, the bin chickens.
Grace, who is like the most plan.
I'm not a traveller, and we just did a whole episode of travelling. But I really hope you enjoyed anyway. Be careful of bin chickens. If you live in Australia, lock your doors. Be careful. Don't fall asleep on the beach because it's scary out there. But I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. Make sure you're following at My Big Sister Podcast on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Spotify, Amazon.
Yeah, everywhere.
I feel like I've missed one. Apple Music.
Yeah.
Follow us everywhere. And if you want to follow our own accounts, my Instagram and TikTok and everything is at Grace Tutty.
And I'm Josie Tutty on Instagram, and I'm on YouTube and stuff as well.
Yeah.
Try and find me.
Try and find her. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this week's episode, and we will see you next Wednesday. Bye. Guys.